Hello, everybody. The workshop on Selenium will start in a few seconds, a few minutes. We just wait people to share to join the meeting, the workshop, and then we start this session. I will now share my screen. Perfect. So, what will be the aim of this workshop? It would be to see together the use of a Python library, a Python package named Selenium. You can find with data scientists in our training on MLOps. You can find a course, a lesson on this library, Selenium. And if you don't access to this MLOps session, you can also visualize in French a workshop that I did 6 months ago on Selenium, and today this workshop in English. So, what is the purpose of this workshop? How to use Selenium to Webscrape. So we will use the library Selenium to perform web scraping, so to access data on a website by an automation. So what is the contents of this workshop? We will first start with an introduction to web scraping, understand together what is web scraping. We will see several tools for web scraping. There are several libraries in Python that enable us to make web scraping. And the most important part of this workshop will be the demonstration of the library Selenium to Webscrape. So, first of all, what is web scraping? Web scraping, it's a technique for extracting content from websites with a script or a program. So we will try to extract the information from a website with an automated program coded in Python with the library Selenium. For this, there are several tools that we can use. For example, there is the library BeautifulSoup with data scientists in many trainings, such as the data analyst training or the data scientist training. You can find lessons on this library BeautifulSoup. There is also the library Scrappy, that is another library that enables us to perform web scraping. And for us, we will focus on the library Selenium. So just to compare all these packages, BeautifulSoup, it's a very user-friendly library that enables us to perform web scraping. And its biggest advantage is that it's very easy to learn. Okay, but the difficulty with BeautifulSoup is that it requires a lot of dependencies. You will see that if you want to perform web scraping with the library BeautifulSoup, you will need to import other um, other packages, and it's not efficient, particularly on the websites that uses JavaScript code for the code of the page. In the HTML, if you have JavaScript code, you won't be able to scrap this website. We will see it just after. With a quick example, I will try to scrap a website coded with JavaScript with BeautifulSoup, and you will see that we won't be able to acquire the information. The other very known library for web scraping is Scrappy. So this library is very efficient and has a very good portability, but maybe the, the inconvenient with this library is that it's not very user friendly and it's not very easy to learn and to understand. Us in this workshop, we will focus on the library Selenium. Um, Maybe the the worst inconvenience of the library Selenium, it's that it's not um, a library made for web scraping. It's a library made for automated tests. Okay, why? Because Selenium, how does it work? It's a library that imitates a user on his computer that will use his mouse and his keywords to to go online on a website, click on this link, enter his name, his first name, etc., etc. It imitates a user. So it's very interesting. This library is very interesting to test the website, to make an automated test of the website. But we can also use it for web scraping because we can go on a website, entering our names, etc., or credentials, and get the information from this website. So, yes, the last very good advantage with Selenium is that it works well with JavaScript code. Is the huge difference between Selenium and BeautifulSoup. So to illustrate it, I will show you a quick demonstration on a website um, created by Python. We will go on a website created by Python. I show you this website. It's just a window here, a website created by Python, and we will focus on these lines here. Okay, that tell us here that this code, this line is coded using JavaScript. And you will see that using BeautifulSoup to get this information, we won't be able to obtain this information, whereas we will be able to obtain it with Selenium. So let's do this. Let's try to obtain this information with BeautifulSoup. So for that, I have to import BS4 as BS. As I said before, BeautifulSoup needs a lot of dependencies, so we also need the library urllib.request. So we import it. Then we have to tell to the computer the source that we want. So the source is urllib.request and uh, and the link that I had here. Okay, and then I tell him that I want him to get the information that is in this web page. If I do it, I will show you what soup is here. Soup is just a text, okay? And what is this text? It's the HTML text that codes this page, okay? How each element that is here codes for an element that is here. For example, this HTML file here tells to the page to print this picture, to print here, look at you shining, etc., etc. We can find here this HTML page, but you can also find it on the web page. How? By clicking using the right click of the mouse and click here on it, inspecter in French, inspect in English. If I click here, it will open here the HTML code of the page. And you can see that if I scroll up or scroll down on this HTML, it indicates me that, for example, this element here codes for this element on the page. Okay, if I want to find in the HTML what element codes for look at you shining, I will do again right click on look at you shining, inspect, and it will center here. It's centered on the elements. Okay, here in blue, I can find what elements on the HTML page codes for look at you shining. So, as I said, we will try with BeautifulSoup to get the information that is here. For that, we need to access to this element. And how can we access to an element with BeautifulSoup, and we'll see it later with Selenium. We can use for each element has an ID or a class. Okay, the easiest way to access an element is to use its ID. Why? Because each element of an HTML has a unique ID. So it's very easy to access an element with its ID. Okay. The class, it's another way to access an element. Okay, but it's sometimes more difficult because many elements on a web page, on a web page, could have the same class. Here, I come back to my code here. So I want to access this element. So this element has the class JSTest. So I will tell him to access the element with the class JSTest. So I tell him, okay, JSTest equal soup.find. I indicate the born of the element. Here it's an element P. Each element in the HTML file has a born, table, div, etc., etc. So here the element is a P, and I tell him that the class of this element is, I have to put here an underscore. The class of this element is GSTest. If I do it, and I tell him to print JSTest, it sorry, didn't find the element. Oh, okay, it's because here I put the wrong syntax. It found the element, and um, we saw that I can tell him to just print the text. Okay, the text is why you bad though, whereas we wanted to obtain this information that was look at you shining. Okay, why do we have this problem? We can just look at here. Okay, here in the HTML page, we can see that the element that we wanted to obtain, that has the text "look at you shining" here, is coded with a JavaScript code. Okay, and as I said before, BeautifulSoup is not able to understand JavaScript code. Okay, so here it just gives us another another text. Why you bad though? Now let's try to obtain the same element with Selenium. So let's try it. I need to import the library from the library Selenium, the object WebDriver. You will see it just after, and the Chrome driver manager. And I tell him that my driver. So I will create a driver. What is a driver? It's just a Chrome driver. It's a web driver. It's like me, the user. If I clicked on Chrome and open a new window, it will make exactly the same. I will show you. So I tell him webdriver.chrome with here uppercase. Okay. And if I do it, I just run this cell. You see that here it opened a window that I show you that is totally empty, but by just running this cell, it opened the window. If I close it, I repeat this action, it opened here a Chrome window that is here. It's empty for now. Why? Because I didn't tell him to access any website. Now I will tell it to access the same page that we had before. So driver.get this link. If I do it now, I will do it in another cell. Okay. You will see that on the Chrome page now it accessed to this link. Okay. And now I remind you that the aim of our work is to obtain this sentence here. So we will use a function of Selenium that I will detail later, that is find elements. So I just write it here. Find element by class name. What is this method? Is just in our website here. I have to find the elements that code for that. This element has the class JS test. So I just tell him find the element by class name, and I indicate that the class is JS test. Okay. So I'm just accessing exactly the same elements that I had before with BS4, with BeautifulSoup. Okay, and if I do it, it tells me that this element has the words "look at you shining." So it's exactly what I wanted. So Selenium understood the JavaScript code, whereas BeautifulSoup was not able to understand it. Now the last thing to do to automate totally automate this work will be to put it in the same cell. I can find here my driver, and if I run this cell, now I have all my commands in the same cell. Okay, if I run this cell, it opens the Chrome driver, but I don't really care. It will show me the answer that is look at you shiny. So we have seen now the huge difference between BeautifulSoup and Selenium. Now we will try to understand how to use Selenium for web scraping. So for that, I will show you an example with the the dashboard from data scientists. Okay, here we will try to scrap this page where we can find all the lessons that I have on my dashboard. Okay, so for those who are students from data scientists, you can access this page, and we will try to interact with the different elements of this page and to access the elements. So for that, I can close this window. For that, I will have to import my credentials, okay, to connect to this. So I just wrote these credentials in a file named creds.txt. Okay, so I run it. So you won't be able to see it, of course. I just import a library that um, enables me to ignore the warnings, because you see that with Selenium there are a lot of warnings, and I'm now ready to start my work. So the first thing to do, as I did before, is to create a Chrome driver and to access the web page. So I just copy it and let's go. But the page that I want to access is not this one anymore. It's this web page. So if I do it, if I run this cell, it will create a new Chrome page, and it's accessing to the dashboard train. And of course, here I was connected, but Selenium is not connected, so I will need to put here my username, here my password, and to click on login. There is a question. Thanks for the presentation. The big problem is to scrape website who detects that you are not humane. What is the best workaround? Philippe, it's a good question. You will see that later with Selenium. I will use it, and of course the website will understand that I'm not human and will try to block me. I will show you at this moment the one, maybe not the best way, but one way to avoid this. Avoid this. Okay, so I will show it to you later. Most of the time, you just have to add a header. Yes, that's a good idea to add a header in Selenium. Another idea is just to reduce the number of how to say it, of com- of comments per second. If you're a human, you can't perform 10 clicks in 1 second. So this is the way the website understands that you're not human. Okay, we will see it just after. Now, for now, I will try to connect to my platform. For that, I have to enter here my username, here my password, and to click on login. So for that, it will be exactly the same way to work with Selenium. It's I find an element, that I want to interact with. So here is this element. I find this element, I interact with it, and I can improve on my page. So here, the first element is this bar here to 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 write my username. So I click here, I inspect it, and it tells me that the element is this one. Here, it will be very easy to find it because, as I said before, on a web page, an element, if an element has an ID, it's very easy to access to this element because the ID is unique. So here I will use this ID. Okay, I copy it. I come back to my. I will make it like that. Okay, so we can have both. If I come back here, I create a new cell. I will use quite the same function as before, but it won't be. I will try to find an element. So I driver dot find elements. Okay, but this time it's not by class name, but it will be by ID because I access to the element thanks to its ID. And here I indicate the ID. If I just do it, here it tells me that my element has this shape. Okay, I don't really understand, but it's not an error. It means that Selenium found the element. To be sure that it found it, I can use click, the method click. As you can understand, we'll click on the element. If I click here, you can see that for the moment there is no cursor here. If I click here, now there is the cursor. So we click on the bar. But here I don't want to click on it. I just want to write my username. So for that, I will use the function sendKeys, the method sendKeys. And what keys do I want to write? Just my mail. If I do it, it wrote my email. Now I just have to do exactly the same with this element. So as before, I inspect here. It shows me the elements. Here it has an ID. So as before, I just click copy the ID. I write it here, and I will use exactly the same function. Okay. This time I don't want to write my mail, but my password. So I will write my password. It wrote my password. Of course, you can't see it. And the last things to do is to click here on login. So if I will do exactly the same and inspect, it shows me that login has again an ID. And this time I won't use the method sendKeys, but the method click to click on login. Very easy for the moment. You will see that later, when you don't have an ID to access an element, it's more difficult, and we will try to find the element with the class or using what we call the XPath. I will talk about it just after. If I click here, you see that it's it's working, and now I accessed my dashboard. Okay, so to be sure that it worked as before, I will write everything in the same cell. I will close my driver. The best way to close a driver is to use driver.close. Okay, very easy. If I run this cell, we will see if everything works. Okay, it was very fast, but you weren't able to see it. But it opened the dashboard. It wrote my email, my username, my password. It clicked on login, and I accessed to this page. Okay, no question. No, perfect. So now I will try to access the first lesson here on my dashboard. So for that, I will, as before, I will have to click here and then here. Okay. So how to do it? As before, I will have to inspect this element, click on this element, then inspect this element, etc., etc. So let's do this. Right click, inspect. Let's do that again so that it centers on this element. Okay, and this time you can see that we don't have how to say it, an ID for this element. Okay, this element or this element, we don't have an ID. Okay, so when we don't have an ID, it's sometimes more difficult to access the element. So I will try to access it by with the name, or with the class, sorry. So I will um, copy this class, and I will try to find the elements using the method find elements by class name, and I indicate which element. If I use it, it tells me no such element exception. Okay, why? Maybe here it's because you can see that my class is button reporting collapsed. Okay, what does that mean? This collapsed? It's because I clicked here and then I um, click on it again. Okay, you can see that the class here changed. It's button reporting. If I click on it again, it's button reporting collapsed. I think this difference is a problem for Selenium. So I will just close the window, write it again, okay? And this time you will see that if I don't click, I don't click here, okay? I just make my right click, inspect. I do that again, and this time you will see that the class name is not button reporting collapsed. It's only button reporting, okay? So if I just remove collapse here, I think it will work, and this is the case. It worked. Okay, so when you have something like that, when you have to click on the button that is, I don't know if we can say it, but reversible, you can click on it and click back on it. It can be confusing for Selenium, so no problem. Just don't click on it before inspecting the web page, and it will work. So here, I just didn't click use the left click on this button. I just use the right click. I write the class name, and it found the the element. So now I just tell him click, okay, and it worked. It clicked on this button. So now I want to open this lesson. So for that, as usual, I could find this element by click by with the right click, etc., etc. I will just show you another way to access an element. It's by XPath. So what is XPath? It's another method to access an element, and I will show you. So by class name, no, not by class name, but this time by XPath. So here, by equal XPath. Okay. What is the XPath? It's a way to access an element by using JavaScript code. So here, for example, I will try to access this element. Okay. So I will tell him I want to access the element that has the text "Hello Data Scientist" on it. Okay. So for that, I use JavaScript code. Okay. I just copy it here. What is this JavaScript code? It's only, it contains a text, and what is this text? It's #1 hello data, okay, like here. By this way, if I just run it, it worked because it found the element. So I just have to click on click, okay, and this time it tells me element not interactable. It's not exactly the same error that I had before. The error before, sorry, was no such element exception. So it just didn't find the element. This time it found the element because if I don't right click, it works. Okay, but if I tells to Python to Python to Selenium to click on it, it tells us that it's not interactable. It can't click on it. Okay, why? Because it's very weird. Because if I do it with my hand, I can click on it and access to the lesson. I just did it before. Here it's because maybe, and you will see that it's the truth. Maybe it's because this element here is not the only one that contains h-tag1 hello data. Okay, maybe there is another element that also contains the text h-tag1 hello data, and this element I can't click on it. To be sure that this is this case, I will use another function that is not find element, but find elements with an S. What is this function this time? It will return, sorry, all the elements that fit this these parameters. So it will return all the elements in my web page that contains the text h-tag1 hello data. Whereas when I put find elements without an S, it just takes the first element of the page that contains this text. Okay, so here it will return a list of elements. Let's try it. It returns a list of 1, 2, 3, 4 elements. It means that 4 elements on my web page contains this text here. So maybe my when I put find element without an S, is just return this element here, the first one. Okay, so maybe this element here that I want to click on is the second of my list. So I will tell him to click on the second element. To click on the second element, I remind you on Python, we have to click on the yes, the second element in Python is coded with 1. Okay, it's the index 1. So I tell him to click on the second element, and if I do it, this time it works. It's opening my my first lesson on the course 100. Okay, it takes a bit of time. Perfect. It's opening my function. Okay, I will just erase it. Perfect. To have a clean function. Perfect. This time it opened my function. It opened, sorry, my lesson. So now, maybe if I want to maybe access, so for example, if I want to run this cell here, I would just try as before, inspect. I do it again. Here I click inspect, okay, and I will tell him to find this element by class name. So let's go here. Let's come back here. Okay, driver dot find element by class name. This time the class, what is the class? It's front container. Dot click. It tells me no such element exception. Why? Why does it tells me no such element exception here? It's just because by clicking on this element, it opened a new window, okay? But my Selenium driver, even if I change the window here, my Selenium driver is still pointing on this window here, okay? Even if I open a new window, it's still pointing on this window. So I have to tell him, change the window. I want now to go to this window, okay? How can I do this? So to show you that it's still pointing on this page here, I would just try driver.refresh, for example, that refresh the page, and it's not refreshing this page here, but this page here. So the driver is still pointing on this page here. Okay. To change the window, I will use a method of the driver. So I will tab is driver dot window handles. Okay. If I do it, what is tab? Tab, it's a list. It's only the list of the different windows that are open. Here, 2 windows are open, so I have a list of 2 elements. Okay, so I would say dashboard equal tab, the first element of my list, and notebook equal the second element of my list. And I will tell to Python, to Selenium, to change the window. So I have to use the method switch to window. Oh, and the window is notebook. And if I do it, it's changing to this second window. To be sure, if I refresh a page here, driver.refresh, it's refreshing this page, this window. There are questions. I found some difficulties to scrape, even using XSpace. For example, the only way I could find element was with XPath. Okay, that's a good question, DevShed, and it's a good, not a good, but it's one of the way of using an XPath. Is to, if you can't find an element, because you can see that sometimes you won't be able to find an element even with this its ID, its class, etc. The Selenium will tells you no such element exception. To find this element, you will be able to find it using the XPath. How I will just show you after. By accessing another element and using this other element as um, as the reference. Okay, I will show you just after this little tip from DevShed. And I think specifically sites that have elements based on certain cases. Yes, you're right. You're right. In many websites, it's very difficult to use ID values or name values. Every time it's only a class name, and when it's a class name, it's very difficult to access it. So I will show you a tip using the XPath to access an element. Okay, so just I will show it just now. So for example, I want to access this web page here. Okay, so it tells me that this cell here has the how to say it, the name prompt container, the class name prompt container. To be sure that it's the me, I don't want to access the how to say it. I want to access the element that are inner the cell, okay, not the entire element. So maybe it's not this element, but I can find that maybe it's this element here. Okay. So I will use this class name here in a cell, and I will try to find it by its class name, like that, without using click for the moment. It's finding the element. But just to use DevShed tip, imagine that by using here inner cell, it didn't work. It told me no such element exception. Okay. Or yes, exactly. Or no, for example, I want to access this element with the class CTB hide show here. Okay. And it tells me no such element exception. I can use the XPath to access inner this element, the element with the class inner cell, and the element with the class CTB hide show is inside this element. You can see that there is a structure in our HTML page, and this element here, this div element, is inside this one. Okay, and using the XPath, I will be able to access this element, and starting from this element, I can access this one, okay, using the XPath /div etc. That's what DevShed is explaining in the commentaries. For me, I don't need CTB hide show. I just need here inner cell, so it found the elements. A very good way to use the class name was why sometimes the class name is the very good thing. It's because elements of the same time have of the same type, sorry, have the same class. What do I mean? I mean that in a notebook, for example, there are several cells. Okay, and I think, and it will be the case, that all the cells have exactly the same class. Okay, this class inner cell is the class for this cell, this cell, this cell, etc. So if I use instead of using find element by class name, if I use find elements by class name, it will return a list of all the elements that have this class. And I don't know, let's see how many uh, elements are there in this there are 13 elements in this list, and if we just make the count, we could see that there are 13 cells in this notebook. So each element found by the function by the method find elements by class name corresponds to one of the cells. Okay, so here if I want to click on this first cell, I just have to say bracket 0, sorry, dot click. If I do it, you will see that it will click on this element. Let's check. It changed the cursor. If now I want to click on this cell because I prefer this one, I just have to put here 1 and click on this cell. Okay, so it's very easy now using the class to parse all the cells, because I just have to erase it, name it cells, and now I have a list of my cells, and I can access each cell very easily. Okay, so now I clicked on this cell. I want to execute to run this cell. So it's a way for me to show you that we can use shortcuts, keypad shortcuts with Python. So maybe you don't know it, but with to run a cell on a Jupyter notebook, we can use the shortcut um, Control plus Enter. Yes, Control plus Enter. Okay, so you have to press Control to keep pressing Control, click on Enter, and to to let Control. Okay, so we will use this shortcut to run this cell. For that, I will need to import a package that is to import, yes, to import something that is up. This one I will import it at the beginning because it's the best way to do it. From Selenium webdriver.common.keys, import keys. Okay, this library will enable me to use keypad shortcuts with Selenium. So let's do this. So I want to run this cell using Control plus Enter. For that, I will use WebDriver dot action chains. What is action chains? It's a method from the WebDrivers, yes, from the WebDrivers that enable us to combine multiple uh, um, keypads. Okay, so here I need Control plus Enter, so it's an action of several. Sorry, it's a chain of several actions. So I need this method action chains. Okay, what is the first action that I want to do is key down. I have to press Control. So key down, keys dot control. Okay. Then I need to click on Enter. So send keys on Enter, keys dot enter. And then I have to key up Control. I have to unlock Control. So here, key up. Sorry, key up keys dot control. Then the last thing to do is to tell to Selenium that it's over and I want to perform this action. So I use the method perform. Let's do this. Let's try this action. Okay, it didn't work. Why? It has no attribute send keys. Maybe it's because we don't have uppercase here. I perform this action, and maybe you didn't see it, but it's run my cell. I can do it again. Here you have 52 runs. If I do it again, it's 53. Again, 54, etc., etc. So here, by running this cell, I am running this cell using Selenium. Okay. Now I just define here a function. If I want now to print something, I can print this message here. I would just have to use, I will click on cells dot, I think it's the, how much? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the fifth cell of my page. So 4 in Python. Dot click. No, it didn't work. Okay, it's not cells. Name cells. It's not defined. I didn't run it. Okay, perfect. It clicked here, and now I want to perform exactly the same action on this. Let's do this. And now in printed, congratulations, you just ran your second cell. If you can share the code, it will be fine. Of course, Philippe, I will at the end I will share the code of this workshop. So now the last thing to do, what is it? It's to put everything in the same cell, okay? And by doing this, we will see if it works. Okay, so this I need this. Yes, up. This here. Refresh. I don't really need this. I have to switch the tabs to define cells. Perfect. And then that's here and here. I recommend you that when you create a Selenium function, do it cell by cell, and at the end combine it in only one cell, because if you combine it at the beginning, every time it will restart the driver. It's not a good idea. So here I close my driver, sorry, and I would just repeat it. So I cross the fingers that it works. Let's see if it works. Maybe there will be a problem, because there are every time problems, but it seems to work for the moment, for now. So let's see it. It's opening the window. Oh, okay, I got an error. List index out of range. Okay, so why? Where is the problem? Cells 4 here. It tells me that there is no cells number 4. I don't really understand why here. Okay, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, it's weird. Wait. If I do it again, here, if I list index out of range, what is cells? Okay, I have to make a debug cells. Okay, for it, cells is empty. Okay, so what the problem here is that for it, cells here, this is empty. Okay, so it's an empty list. So it means that it didn't find the elements with the class name inner cell. Okay, if I do it again, let's see. Now it found the elements. Okay, I just repeat the action and it found the elements. So I think that at the beginning it didn't find all the elements with the class name inner cell here. Why? Because I didn't let him the time to find it. It's a bit weird, but you see that the page needs time to load. Okay, and during this time, Selenium tries to perform its actions, and maybe when Selenium accessed to this page, it tried to find all the elements with the class name inner cell, but the page wasn't totally loaded, so it didn't find the elements. So when you have this type of problems, and you will see that these types of problem appear many times, okay, you just tell him, sorry, to wait a few seconds before trying to find the elements. And exactly Aflus, you will use sleep one. What is sleep one? You just tell to Python, wait 1 second, okay, and then you can still working on your comments. So here I will from time import sleep. Sorry, from time import sleep. I import the function sleep here, and I will tell it So it was at this moment, at the moment where I switch the window, I'll tell him sleep 1. Let's see if it works. Okay, it's accessing. Here it's working. Now it's loading the page. Maybe 1 second is not enough. We will see. Okay, it's not enough. So I can put here maybe 3 seconds. So I know that the more we add seconds, the more it takes time to realize web scraping. But that's one of the problems of Selenium, is that it's much longer to perform than BeautifulSoup. It's much longer to obtain an element than with BeautifulSoup. Yes, exactly, DevShed. You're right. Um, oh, there is still an index error. Okay, I don't really understand why. Um, I think it's a problem of loading, because, as I said, when I just do it again, it works. So it's really a problem of loading. So if I maybe if I had a better connection, it would be better. And maybe if I put here sleep 5 or 10, it would work. To answer DevShed, you're right. When a website detects that you're not human, you can use sleep 1, sleep 2, sleep 3 to to avoid this. Okay. So now that I show it to you, we will try to perform a true web scraping method, because here it was just an example on this website. Let's do this with uh, another website. This time we will try it on Google directly. Okay, we will take um, a project that we realize in data scientist. That is the project gaming sales. For those who have done this project, maybe in this project you have a data set that I will import. So I will just show you this data set. Okay. In this data set, we have informations, datas on different video games. Okay. But to perform in this project, we try to perform machine learning. Okay. And try to predict the number of states of different video games. Okay. For that, the the variables that we have here, the publisher, the year, the platform, are not enough information to predict the number of states of a video games. So for that, we will try to find further information on these elements. So using this data set, we will scrap Google, only Google, okay, and we'll try to find elements. So let's go. As before, we create a web driver. I create a web driver, and this time I will access the page Google. So let's go. It's creating a Google web page. Of course, with Google, we have this problem. So I will have to accept, I think it's the cookies or something like that. So inspect. I do it again. I will, of course, accept the cookies. Is there is a class here. Or maybe, oh yeah, it's this button. So there is an ID. So it's very easy. I will find the element by ID. Okay. Driver dot find element by ID. Okay, I write the ID. Dot click. It's working, perfect. So I accessed to Google, and this time I will tell to Selenium to write the name of a video game. So for example, Wii Sports. Something to know is that this bar here for Google always has the same name. It's Q. Okay, so it's you don't need to inspect this element. This element will always have the name Q. So I can find the elements this time not by class name but by name. Okay, by name. It's a different way to access an element. Q. dot click, if I make click, it worked because it finds the element, but I don't want to click here. I just want to send keys. And what is the keys that I want to it's Wisports. If I do it, it would Wisports, and finally the final thing to do is to click on enter. Send keys dot enter. Let's do this. It worked. It accessed the page. On this page, we will try for every video games, we'll try to obtain the information here, okay, contained in this info box, what we call an info box, because we have a lot of information, or for you it's not very clear here because it's in French, but here what is it's written that 96% of the users have liked these video games. Okay, we have such information for on the video game. So here, for every games in our data set, we will try to find the information contains in this info box. So let's go. As before, sorry, I have to find the element that codes for this info box. I would try to find it. I want the whole page, the whole info box. So maybe it's one of this. I would try to find the one that performs the best. I think here with this one, I could have the information in all the info box, but maybe can I have all the info box? No. Okay, I just can have a part of the info box. So which one is the easiest? Sorry. Um, maybe this one. No. Okay, maybe this one. Don't have the info in the notes in the marks. Okay, I will try this one, for example, and we will see if it gives me all the info that is in this info box. So let's come back here. It was a class name. So as before, driver.find elements by class name, not name. If I put this, okay, it didn't find the element. That's one of the problem of Selenium. So let's try another one. Maybe this one. Okay. It found the elements. If I do by dot text, perfect. So you see that here I was able to access all the info that was all the text that was in the info box. It's not as pretty as it was, of course, on the web page, but I have all 96% of the users like these games. I have a description of the video game with sports is a video game of sports, etc., etc. So I have all the information here. Maybe in the next part I could perform text mining on this to obtain all the information that I want. Okay, but with this I get all the information of the info box. So now what the last thing to do is just to perform a loop that instead of writing here Wii Sports, it will write Wii Sports, then Super Mario Bros, Mario Kart Wii, etc., etc. So let's do this. Um, First of all, I will import a library named TQDM. What is TQDM? It's a library to perform loops where I can see the percentage of realization of this loop. You will see it's not very important. It's just to understand where I am in the loop. Okay, so let's copy all the things that I've done. So this, it's important. Then this is important because I want to accept the cookies. Then this time I won't click on I won't send the keys with sports, but I will send the keys that correspond to the first elements on the first line, then on the second line, etc., etc. So just before doing this, I will have to start my loop. So the way I write my loop is tqdm. Okay, I have to iterate on the rows. Yes, on the rows of my data frame, and the total of elements is len of gaming. Gaming is my data frame. Okay, how do I do it? Okay, perfect. This time I don't write here WeSports, but I will just write um, the name that is in my the text that is in my column name. Okay, so I will write here row brackets name. Okay, perfect. Just before doing it, I will give a name to this. I will call it bar. Okay, perfect. Bar.clear. Why.clear? What is bar.clear? It's to clear this bar here, because of course I have here WeSports. So if I want to write a second video game, if I don't clear it, it will write WeSports and then the second video game, etc., etc. So every time in my loop, at every iteration of my loop, I need to clear my bar. And finally, to send keys row dot name. Okay, row brackets name. And the last thing to do is to obtain the text that is in my info box. And of course, so this should work. Okay, uh, but to obtain this element, I will keep this element that I obtain here in in a new column of my data frame. So I will tell him info box is the text that is in the info box, and the info that I obtained in this info box, I just create a new a new a new how to say it, a new column named description in my data frame gaming that contains this info box. So let's do this and let's try to understand if it works or not. I think there will be an error because there are every time errors. So it's connected to Google. Okay, an error at the beginning. Data frame has not put its rows. Okay, it's because I put 2t. So I close it. Let's do that again. Okay, it's working. It's writing WeSports. Ah, we have a problem. Name infobo. Okay. It's not the problem that I expected. Problems of syntax. Let's do that again. I'm sorry for the delay. So it's writing WeSports. Okay, again a problem. str object has not attribute text. Okay, this time. Oh, okay, it's because infobox I already said that it was the text contained here, so I didn't need to put text here. I think it's the last problem. I hope. Okay, with sports. Yes, this time Super Mario Bros, Mario Kart Wii, etc., etc. And every time it's iterating, it's getting the information in the data frame. You see that in the third page, it didn't find an element, the info box. Why? Because the game Mario Kart Wii don't have an info box. So you could say, okay, it's a huge problem because if in my data frame there are games that don't contain an info box, there will be errors every time. That's why when you create a loop with Selenium, it's a very important idea to use the keywords try except. What are these keywords? Try will try this code. Okay, if there is no errors in this code, it will work. If there is an error in the code, it will stop here and it will go to except. Okay, and I just have to tell him what to do if there is an exception. If there is an error, you will you won't be able to find the element in info box. So maybe you will write no data or something like that. Here we write no data. So if there is no error, you do it, no problem. You get information in the info box. If there is an error, don't stop the loop, because for me it's a huge problem if you stop the loop, because the aim of Selenium is to launch it and then to watch a movie or go running during its working. So if I'm running and there is a problem and it's not working anymore, I can find it, I can know it. So that's why try except is the very good tool to avoid this problem. If there is a problem, it keeps working by doing the except. So let's do this. I close it, and it should work this time. Super Mario Bros. I cross the fingers. Mario Kart Wii, and okay, it worked. Whereas it didn't find the info box because there are no info box. But I think we will see it later that on in the third element of the description, the column description in gaming, I would have no data, but it's still working, so I can keep scrapping. Okay, perfect. Are there any questions on what we've seen? Okay, there was a question. It was how to avoid um, how to avoid website to block us because we are not human. I think here there will be I don't know when, but there will be a problem. It will ask me to click on a captcha because it will, you can see here Chrome understands that I'm not a human. It tells me Chrome is controlled by um, an automating test software, so it understands from the beginning. It knew that I'm not human. And I think that if I keep going and keep performing actions, a lot of actions in short moments, exactly, it tells me you have to how to say it, you have to prove that you're not a robot. And I just have to click on je ne suis pas un robot, I'm not a robot in English. And I could keep working on it. So here where are the stairs here. Okay, it didn't work. Ah. I don't know why it, well, okay, I can't find it. It's not a problem. But if I was human, of course I could click on it. For my robot, for my Selenium robot, it's of course very difficult to find a captcha. That's why a way to do it, sorry, is to reduce the number of actions per second. So for that, as I said before, I can I can use sleep one during my code, or sleep two or something like that, so that it doesn't give me this error. I won't do it because it would take time. It would take time, but it's one of the only way to do it. And finally, let's see our data frame. So gaming, you can see I can gaming. I can Okay, in gaming, you can see that in the will that held maybe 20, perfect. All these elements were found, and of course, in the third line, we have no data because we didn't have info box. Okay, so it's very easy. And now maybe the last thing to do would be, it's not web scraping this time, it's text mining, would be to obtain the information by text mining and obtaining the information concerning the users, concerning the producers, the editors, etc., etc. Sleep random value. Yes, you can use a random value, maybe between 0 and 1. Why? Because if you use a random value, it means that the time you use to perform an action will change because it's random. And maybe, I think, I'm not sure of this, but Google, if you don't use the same time to perform the same action, we'll say, okay, it's a human, because the humans, we won't click every time at the same speed. Okay, so maybe it would be a good idea to use a random value between 0 and 1 and 0 and 2 to perform your actions. Pascal, how can we access to PDF file contents? um, I think it could work with PDF files, but I don't think that Selenium is the best way to get the information from a PDF files. Maybe with BeautifulSoup, or yes, another library like BeautifulSoup would be easier. Why? Because I remind you that the huge advantage of Selenium is that it will work on websites coded with JavaScript, and it's not the case with PDF. It's to lure the machine. I don't know what lure means. Lure in French. I'm sorry. Oh yeah, okay. It's quite the same one in French. Yeah, you're right. It's to lure the Google machine, and to try to keep working and to keep using our Selenium bot. Other questions? How about downloading them PDFs and all and analyzing text on your computer? Yeah, of course. Maybe it's the best way to do it, but maybe the question from Pascal was, if you have uh, 1,000 PDF files. If you have 1,000 PDF files, it will not be easy to download all of them, and then to access by maybe text analysis or text mining, to access it on your computer. Of course, if you have I don't know, 5 PDF files, the best way to do it will be to access it directly on your computer. But it's exactly the same for the website. If you just want to obtain a few information on a website, don't use a Selenium bot, sorry, because it will be too long for um, a task that you could take 10 minutes to obtain it. It's really for a huge data set, for example, that you want to create. And here the data set gave me, how many lines are there? I think there are more than 4,000 lines. Dot shape. Oh, okay. 16,000 lines. If I do it not with a bot, it will take too many times. Okay. I think with that, you could be able to use Selenium. Of course, I will share the code of this workshop. It was 6K. Yeah, you're right. It's 16K. You're right. You're right. I will share the code of this workshop, and thank you everybody for participating in this workshop. I hope you loved it, and thank you everybody. Goodbye.